the AK-47, the M4, and the AWP. You like them, right? Well, sometimes you're poor, and you can't have them. You can't. So, if you're a temporarily embarrassed 16K-aire, what options have been popular when an AK, M4, or AWP is out of reach? What weapons are the best of the rest? Today, we're going to look at their history. The SMGs, pistols, and other B-tier guns that are bought when you can't afford one of the big three, and how their use has ebbed and flowed through different metas and buff and nerf cycles. Before we get into it, what is the rest? Well, it's anything that's not an AK, M4, or AWP. And we'll also exclude the default pistols, the Glock, and the USP. In terms of all-time total kills at a pro level, these 6 weapons make up 76.37% of all kills made since CSGO was launched in 2012. So, the rest is every other gun, fighting for that minuscule 23.63%, including pistols, SMGs, shotguns, and the B-tier rifles. So which of these weapons have risen to the top and have been the pick of choice for broke Ts and CTs over the years? In 2012 and 2013, everyone was still figuring things out. During 2012, the AWP wasn't even in the top 3 weapons and came in behind the P250. But besides the P250 being a cheap way to both upgrade in pistols and one-shot headshot full-bort players even at medium ranges, the FAMAS and the Galil were the obvious choice in the first years of CSGO, with the top 5 of 2013 all getting around 3% of the year's kills with the FAMAS. The first truly exciting change to the half-buy meta came in 2014, with the release of a certain pistol, the CZ75. Throughout 2014, this was a pocket AK. On half-buys, it was a complete no-brainer, with a one-shot headshot at close range, high fire rate, and a $300 kill reward, and it only took 1 kill to pay itself off. It exploded in use, taking out 4.4% of total kills in 2014, and some AWPers seeing their kills reach above 10% for the year using this weapon. 2014 was the first year the big 3 saw their reign threatened by a shitter. In 2015, this threat was clearly taken seriously, and a hit was put out by the big 3, and the CZ was nerfed back into the bin from where it came. This once again led to the FAMAS coming back on CT side as the half-buy of choice, but on T side, the Galil didn't make a comeback. Instead, a pistol not yet seen at the top began to appear in loadouts, the Tech 9. The Tech 9 was in dichotomy with what everything Counter-Strike stood for. Counter-Strike is known for slow, controlled gameplay. The Tech 9 was fast and loose. Counter-Strike is known for needing to be still or counter-strafe in order to be accurate. Well, the Tech 9 says fuck you, I'm gonna play like I'm a sweat on Nuketown. The Tech 9 was fast firing, high damage, and accurate even while running. It really is no wonder this became the gun of choice on T side behind the AK and the AWP. But despite all this, the Tech 9 wasn't even the biggest kid on the block in 2015. This was the year the R8 was added. While it only dominated for a week before it was nerfed, this weapon is still worth mentioning. When it was added, it was an $800 AWP. It was a pistol that got one-shot body shots, even at range. Evil, evil times. Gives me shivers thinking about that week after school and just having every lobby feel like the Wild West. After the R8 nerf, we enter what I like to call the Middle Ages of Counter-Strike, starting in 2016. Everyone knows Counter-Strike players hate change, so it takes a while for us to evolve. But evolution did come, and this weapon of the future was an SMG. It was the UMP-45. This weapon was $1,200, did 35 damage, and had reasonable armor penetration at 65%, and was pretty accurate while running too. Best of all, it had a 600 kill reward, which means it paid itself off in 2 kills. Its use gradually grew throughout 2016, reaching 3.07% of all kills over the year, taking the number 1 spot from the FAMAS and the Tech 9. Moving into 2017, the UMP continued to grow its dominance, reaching a peak at ESL Pro League Season 5 finals with 8.01% of kills being made by the UMP. It was at this point, just before Pro League, that the UMP was nerfed, slightly reducing its range from 0.85 to 0.75, meaning its maximum damage of 35 reduces faster, making 4-shot kills more regular compared to the 3 that players had come to expect. After this nerf, the UMP dropped in percentage in every event onward, and 2017 was the last year it was seen amongst the top weapons. By the time of IEM Oakland, Rez, the MVP of Byzantium 150 BC, only secured 6 kills using the UMP across the entire tournament. This shows how sensitive the meta is in Counter-Strike and how little is required in order to dramatically shift things. With all of this talk about shifting metas, I'm shifting into this ad read from our sponsor, SkinVault GG. Thanks as always. SkinVault GG enables you to sell and trade your skins hassle-free. They have thousands of skins available to trade or buy, and this is all with some of the lowest fees on the market. If you support me and use code NEBULACS on SkinVault, gain an instant $10 trade bonus and a 35% deposit bonus through NEBULACS. Using my code helps me and helps you guys too, so enjoy trading. Back to the video. Continuing through the Middle Ages, 2018 didn't really have any slop float to the top. We had the standard AK, M4 and AWP domination, and we didn't really have any excitement from any of the half-buy weapons. So, for the purposes of this video, we can just pretend that 2018 never even existed. Sorry, Australis. In 2019, once again, the CS player base proved it hated change, taking 7 years since the launch of CSGO to realise that the AUG and the Krieg are kind of cracked. Check my video on this, by the way. And before you say, "But these aren't even cheap options, you fucking clickbaited me, dickhead." Well, yes, you do need to be a baller to buy these weapons, but in my defense, they're not in the inner circle. Well, 2019, this was the closest anything ever got to not only being used, but actually dethroning one of the dominating 3 weapons. The year wrapped up with the AUG on 9.35% of kills, and the M4 with 12.23, stealing over 6% of the M4's kills from the previous year. And if not for the nerfs that hit both the AUG and the SG in mid-2019, they probably would have succeeded in leapfrogging the M4 and AK. But the AUG was hit with a rate of fire reduction from 666 to 600 in June, dramatically reducing its utility. And the SG was hit in early 2020 with a similar nerf, reducing its rate of fire. Another slop tier weapon to have its breakout in 2019 was the MP9, a gun that we all love to play against. Moving out of the 2010s and into CSGO's second decade, 2020 marks the beginning of the modern era of Counter-Strike. It also marks the year the Deagle gets its first buff since 2014. It now recovers accuracy far quicker after landing, making it a bit more easy to use while moving. Which was a big update, given over the previous 8 years of CSGO, the game had become more dynamic and fast moving. In 2020, the Deagle became the 4th most used weapon in the game, sitting at 4.98% of kills. 1.6 and Source players would have felt right at home with the Deagle now, because back in the day, the Deagle was just completely broken. With a buff to the Galil and the FAMAS at the end of 2019 reducing their price for the broke boys, they also began to see more use in 2020, primarily at the expense of the Tech 9 on T side. In 2021, the Deagle continued to grow its lead as the most used pistol, now sitting at 5.43% of kills, and the Galil and the MP9 continued to grow slightly, and the MP9 grew at the expense of the FAMAS. To be honest though, in terms of big changes, 2021 was a pretty relaxed year. In 2022, the game had now been out for 10 years. Everything has been optimized to an insane level. The top 3, plus the 2 default pistols, now made up 79.49% of kills, leaving only 20.51% for the rest to squabble over. Only the Galil, the MP9 and the Deagle had any significant success over the year, holding steady from their stats in 2021. We're in 2023, the final year of CSGO and the first year of CS2. This year, the Galil has increased its hold over the budget T side for a 4th straight year, and the MP9 continued to be ridiculous. And look, I am sorry variety during these last years of CSGO just wasn't there. People used the AK, M4 or AWP and just barely used anything else. Could this drop in use of B tier weapons be due to players just being better at handling anti-ecos? And full bought teams just saving the instant they lose an opening duel, preventing the half-buy weapons from really padding their stats? Well, yeah. This is because in half-buy rounds, if success is found, the full bought team will just save, not converting half-buys into many kills. So if you want to blame someone for the back end of this video being less interesting, blame Jame. Don't blame me. Blame Jame. Moving into 2024, the first year played entirely on CS2, we saw AWP usage drop, which opened up some much needed space for some of the less used weapons. The Galil and the MP9 continued to grow again, both sitting at around 4% of kills, and are some of the higher percentages seen for B tier weapons, showing higher rates of success. While no changes were really made to any stats, due to MR15 making way for MR12, we just began to see more half-buys instead of pure eco rounds, as each round is just that much more valuable. And finally, we're at today, in 2025. The Galil and the MP9 are the last survivors and continue to cannibalize their poor brothers. The Galil is currently the best half-buy weapon in the game, somehow beating out the classic T weapons like the MAC-10 and the Tech-9, with the MP9 close behind. But in comparison with the big three, nothing really stands up above everything else. So, after all this time, what have we really learned? Well, sure, the AK, the M4 and the AWP will always be the golden trio. They dominate the game for a reason. But if you don't play perfect, there's always a chance for a scrappy eco round, powered by desperation and an $1,800 budget that can penetrate a site, no lube. And these second class weapons have had their moments in the spotlight, sometimes brief, sometimes broken, but always offering some of Counter-Strike's most memorable moments. And while they've never really truly dethroned the big three, they've carved out a legacy of their own. A legacy not built on power, but pure brute force and a bit of luck. So yeah, you might want the AK, M4 or AWP, but sometimes you're poor. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and of course, use code NebulaCS on SkinVaultGG. See you in the next one, boys.